There's some part of wanting recognition that is just spiteful.
Yeah.
That, you want the recognition so you could be like, see? Huh? I did it. None of you thought I could, but no one's even thinking about you. So whoever those people are, it's in your head. You know what I mean? Like, that crew in my head didn't think I'd do it. I haven't won anything.
Hey everybody, welcome to Den of Geek Studio at South by Southwest. I'm Alec Bojallet, and I am here with Steven Feinartz and Marc Maron of the documentary Are We Good? Thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Yeah.
Tell you what, to get started, I was wondering, Marc, did you have any cat updates? How are they doing back in?
They're okay, I guess. Charlie is a bit of an asshole. And when I go away, he really steps up his bullying game on the other two. Sammy's kind of a moron, and Buster's kind of the older guy. And I guess Charlie's just tearing it up. But at least sometimes when I go away, he gets sick because he doesn't like me to leave. But the lack of the alpha me, which only happens in the context of cats, gets a little crazy over there.
I like how the ecosystem completely falls apart without Marc Maron.
Yeah, and Charlie just tears it up.
We just adopted we found a cat in a pricker bush outside of Starbucks last year.
Like a kitten?
A kitten, yeah.
Oh.
And she had a belly full of worms and everything.
And you kept her and you cleaned
her up?
We
kept her and we love her.
That's good
What's
news.
her name?
Her name is Mildred.
Mildred.
I like it.
We actually wanted to go with Millie, but then Mildred was a retronym.
Sure.
But then now she's just Mildred.
Yeah, well, but do you call her Millie?
Not at all. She's full on Mildred. We even go like Mildy. Like,
wow.
Hi, Mildy.
All my cats have several names, and you just land on one. Like Charlie is actually Charlie Beans Roscoe, and but I usually call him Choco. And then Buster is Buster Kitten, and Sammy is Smushy occasionally.
That's the thing about cats. They never have just the one name.
Just if you get the syllables right and you get them responding to their name, that's a great feat.
Yeah.
Like Sammy just does not want to register his name.
All right, well, that's all we have time for.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
So, let's talk about this doc a bit. I wonder if each of you could tell me about the genesis of this, because you cover it a bit in the doc itself, and Marc, you just kind of tell Steven that he annoyed you to the point where, like, this had to happen.
Yeah, it's happening now.
We're not done. Yeah.
The annoying continues.
Yeah.
Well, I've known Steve for a long time. He's been around the scene a while. Directed a great doc about my buddy Eddie Pepitone that I was part of. And after certain events happened in my life, Steve thought it would be an interesting time to document me. And I guess I was resistant, but the resistance I think initially was, shouldn't I be like 70 or 80 before you do a doc? Shouldn't I be dead before we do a doc? Like, what is this doc about? Yeah. I don't think I've hit the peak of what I'm going to do, and we're going to miss all that. And then it became this constant sort of like, it kept going on and on for 4 years. And I was like, what are you waiting for? How are you going to end this? Am I going to die? Do I have to, what is it going to make you know that it's done?
Yeah, it was ominous for sure. We kept going, but his special was the end of 2022, and then we kept filming into 2023.
It just kept going.
It did keep going. Yeah, it's still going in a way.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it wasn't a celebrity biodoc thing. We wanted to do, it was more of a follow doc, sort of in the realm of like a Crumb or Hoop Dreams kind of thing. So more verite, not a biodoc, like I said. So it felt like a story that was ongoing, as opposed to something where you're looking back at archival and all that. So
that'd be a good bit, like a documentarian that kills his subject to like give it like the right ending.
Good pitch. We'll take it.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
Make some calls, David.
Get on it. Steve, in constructing this doc and filming Marc for all these years, I feel like you may have run into kind of like an atypical documentarian problem in which your subject is known for being very open and like confessional, has like an intimate relationship with his fans and the world at large. What was it like to deal with that, to try and find out even more about Marc?
It wasn't even about finding more. It was just seeing, how he would react to certain things and just being around him more. It wasn't like I didn't want to uncover new things, because he says everything on his podcast. There's nothing new that was coming about. Like his,
I think there's some new stuff, though. Yeah, I mean, because like in if I can just step in, it's good talking to you. Not unlike my interview process. The thing is that in terms of being candid, a lot of times it's an unspoken thing that something gives way. So when you're dealing with a visual medium, you can see moments that you're not going to be able to hear.
Yeah.
It's not about information.
Yeah.
It's about, interaction and engagement within a particular moment. And I think that stuff that's not documented.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Marc, have you watched the doc yet?
Yeah, I watched a cut recently. I don't think I saw the final one.
You saw pretty close to the final. There's like only a couple.
Yeah, it's a tough watch, and I think
it's hard to watch yourself.
Yeah, I mean, how much me can I take? I'm pretty. Yeah, I thought he did a great job. I'd seen another version of it months ago, and it definitely needed to be reeled in and refined. But I think the final thing is pretty solid. All the little story arcs seem to land. There's many kind of little trajectories within it that all kind of find completion. It's a good job.
I mean, for what it's worth, I saw it and loved it.
Oh, thanks.
I don't always come out with that and say that, but it felt applicable here. Since,
good. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Marc, when watching the doc,
Yeah.
did you have any thoughts on the incredible parade of your peers and people that Steve got in for these interviews? Is there anything that any of them said that kind of struck you? You're like, I never thought of myself like that.
Well,
Yeah.
it was. I think that was kind of we weren't, or Steve wasn't sure, whether he was going to use talking heads.
That's true.
And it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was a fairly late in the game kind of decision he made, and it was actually the one note that I gave him that the cut I saw had all those guys in there, like Bargatze and Mulaney wasn't in yet, but Cross, Lipsight, my buddy, and Kamau and those guys, Cedar. But I noticed that, after watching the doc, and the thing is, like, him and I have not a contentious relationship,
No.
but there is a tone to it that is sort of self-effacing already, not on purpose.
Yeah.
So he's got all these peers of mine just busting my balls, and I said to him, you talked to these guys for an hour. They didn't say anything nice about me. Can we maybe rethink the clips? And I think he did. I don't know. I
gave him one or two.
It's just every one of them was with that tone, like, oh, Maron. I'm like, all right, can we? You know what I mean? I do that enough.
Yeah.
I won't spoil what the quote is. I think it actually closes the doc. It's
right.
It's almost like an
He hasn't seen it.
Avengers-esque post-credit
Marc
scene.
hasn't seen that yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Then I
it's
definitely
good.
won't spoil it.
I like it.
There's a quote coming at the end of this doc that I
But
feel...
from who?
Mulaney.
From Mulaney.
Okay, all right.
That I feel like describes... I mean, I don't know Marc Maron as a person. I just know Marc Maron, the public figure. I feel like it describes...
kind of know most of
And
it.
I guess so, yeah. It describes the Marc Maron experience more than anything I've ever heard in my life.
Well, good. I'm glad John showed up for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Busy guy.
I need a Mulaney to explain myself to me. Like,
Mulaney's pretty precise.
Yeah. He was great.
Marc, obviously, a big theme of this film and this interview now in general is that you're a profoundly introspective person, but also a public figure. What is riding that line? Because I think I'm a fairly introspective person, but I don't have a public that thinks this is a group project.
Well, I mean, I think the key to that for me is I think that I'm so introspective that I have no real sense of my public self. Look, I do stand up and I know, but the podcast, but I'm sitting there in my garage studio with whoever, and that's the last I engage with that thing. I don't listen to it again. So there's something about the life I live, which is relatively small, that keeps me detached from whatever the outside perception of me is. I know that I'm a public person, but there's not a lot of shift in my disposition or in my sense of who I am in the world, and I have to be reminded of it. Like even this documentary, seeing myself from this point of view or from outside of myself, was a little cringy for me, and a bit humbling. But I think the key to me dealing with that is I don't change that much for better or for worse. And sometimes my public self, like if I show up on a talk show or I'm in a movie, I'm always thinking dude, you could have just, do a little show business. You don't have to be all raw and freaked out all the time. But I don't notice it that much.
I anticipated this documentary being a very emotional experience, and it obviously was for the obvious reasons. But one thing I didn't necessarily anticipate were how touched I was by the scenes with your father, Marc. Now, I mean, if you're comfortable, I mean, it's just an interview.
Yeah.
Like, what was it like, you two going to Marc's dad's house and interacting with him like that?
Well, I mean, listening to Marc for many years and knowing his relationship with his father through the podcast, I mean, I knew it was going to be interesting for sure. I didn't know. There's one scene in particular towards the end, I think you might be mentioning, that was specifically very, very telling about your relationship. But
Which one?
The
In the restaurant?
Yeah, the restaurant.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I was just happy to have the access and just to be there for it and just be a fly on the wall. I mean, it was great.
Well, my dad's at a stage in his life where, like, he doesn't have too much filters anyway. But he kind of showed up that day. Like, he's got dementia, but, like, it's apparently, and I've noticed this when I interview older people, that, when he knows I'm going to be there, all his energy goes into, like, being there.
Yeah.
But that was some good guerrilla shooting on Steve's behalf, because they didn't want us to shoot in the Chinese place.
True.
And he just laid that camera down. And it's one of my favorite parts of the movie, really. There's a little arc where my dad's wife, as I'm walking him out to the car, with his walker, and she's like, she gives me Kleenex. So like, just his nose runs sometimes. And it actually, towards the end of the bit in the Chinese restaurant, his nose started to run. And I was like ready with the Kleenex, but he's like, I got one. It was just it was a good beat.
Yeah.
And he was asking me questions, which is rare. I don't even know how that happened.
I don't know either.
That all of a sudden my dad's like,
Yeah.
why? And I'm like, what? Since when is there interest on that
Yeah.
side of things? So,
Yeah. He was lobbed up. Maybe he was ready. He knew.
I don't know. But he's doing all right. I just was out there.
I think that Kleenex moment was exactly what I was thinking of when I was kind
It
of like hit
it
by
was
this.
really a kind of stunning little bookend to the thing. Like it was a whole story in like a couple of minutes,
Yeah.
And then I had when he asked me that question, about the winning the award, like my response was sort of a mixture of old me and new me. Like I kind of called myself on it about my spite, I guess. Like there's some part of wanting recognition that is just spiteful.
Yeah.
That you want the recognition so you could be like, see, huh? I did it. None of you thought I could, but no one's even thinking about you. So whoever those people are, it's in your head. You know what I mean? Like that crew in my head didn't think I'd do it. I haven't won anything.
I gotta say, a little you call out that they didn't win the Grammy they're nominated for the Grammy. I gotta say, a little weird. I think that the special.
It didn't get nominated, you're saying?
Yeah, isn't that the end of that?
I agree.
I couldn't. That was the best I could do. It was one of those things where I'm like, I'm not going to get any better than this special. And when it didn't show up anywhere, I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm one of those acts, the marginal cult figure.
Yeah, I think the voices in your head were right on that one. I think you were jobbed.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think so.
Let's make some content here a little bit.
Yeah.
I wanted to know if there is a Mount Rushmore of WTF episodes. What do you think? Which 4 episodes do you think are on there?
Well, that's an interesting way to frame a question I rarely answer. Well, the ones I think about, I think that William Friedkin one is pretty solid.
Yeah.
And like I can only go from my current memory of things. I think I got a very unique interview with Jodie Foster. The Al Pacino one was very interesting and informative for me. And there's a moment at the beginning of the Eddie Murphy episode that is like one of the best moments ever, because, and this is during COVID, right? So I'm interviewing Eddie Murphy, and like he's like not unlike Will Ferrell and some of these guys, they want to be serious for whatever reason. It's like, and like when you interview Will Ferrell, because of what you know or experience with Will Ferrell's work, you kind of just sit there waiting, like it's going to be fun, it's going to happen. You just want it to, because they can turn it on so quickly, and you kind of. But with Eddie, like he was on Zoom, and he was at his house, and he was sitting in this on some sort of sofa or something. But it was like patent leather. It was like red, shiny leather. And right when we started the interview, I said to him, I said, where are you? And he goes, I'm in my house. And I said, do you have a steakhouse in your house? Because of the red kind of leather seating. And he just fell over laughing. Like he was like, he just asked me if I had a steakhouse. And like to get a real laugh from Eddie Murphy was pretty thrilling.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of episodes, dude. I mean, like it's hard to like do a Mount Rushmore.
The Robin Williams episode is a classic. I think everybody loves that.
Well, yeah,
one.
but that's like an established classic. You know, my experience with that, it was great because it was, you know, I was at his house.
Yeah.
And the best part about that, I guess, you know, I can be public about it, is it was just me and him. So I was able to get a fairly, you know, he's a very shy, thoughtful, dark guy. And so it was a unique interview in that way. He'd never done one like that. But we were at his house, and he's like, I'm going to show you something. You can't tell anybody about it. And I'm like, all right. And we go over to this door, and he opens the door, and it's just a room full of like these like toy soldiers. They're like a very specific type of toy soldier that are bigger than usual, but they're from all over the world. But it was a very specific thing, and he had this whole collection. I'm like, I'm not going to tell anybody about this. If this is your big secret, buddy, I'll keep it.
I also heard he was a big video game player, like obsessive.
I don't know
obsessive
about that.
about video
I just thought the
games.
soldier thing was really out of left field.
Yeah, that's
I wonder what
wild.
happened to those soldiers.
Yeah.
Reminds me of that 30 Rock plot line where Jack Donaghy collects honeypots.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, people have
yeah.
that stuff, like interesting little obsessions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, your stand-up career and just your life in general is taking you all over the place. I imagine.
Yeah, I was in San Antonio this morning.
I know.
I don't want to brag, but
Whoa. I would imagine you've seen Austin through like several different parts of its life cycle.
Yeah.
What's that been like to view from afar, or even like as a participant?
when I came here early on, like way back when Cap City was the original Cap City, it just always felt like, a kind of a pretty kind of groovy little place where people can live the way they want to live and be artists and do whatever they want to do. And but it always felt like it's like people would go, "How was Austin?" I'm like, "It's like 5 blocks," And then over time, you felt it getting bigger, a lot because of this festival and other festivals. And now it's been, taken over by, a specific type of oligarchical corporate element that, I think it's kind of sadly dwarfing the original vibe. And I imagine economy, I imagine lifestyle of the people that originally lived here. Like I went out last time I was here and I dug up A. Whitney Brown somewhere out there in the sticks. And, there are people, I think, because I played Moon Tower the last year and I didn't know what it would be like since the monsters took over. But like the people that, live here still live here. And, I guess they're dealing with something pretty daunting and disturbing. But I mean, I always liked it,
I was my brother lives here now, and he was driving me to a Korean barbecue place yesterday, which was nice. But we drove past all the high rises that are on Rainy now. I'm like,
Yeah.
that is really something.
It's the same with Nashville, man. It's weird. Like Nashville, I don't think was as intimate, obviously, and had a different vibe, but it's like just massive construction. And you're like, what is happening?
Yeah, everybody's moving there.
So I watched this documentary, but I am the TV editor at Den of Geek, and I think one of my favorite Marc Maron modes is Marc Maron TV critic, because you correctly identified that Reservation Dogs was the best show on television,
In years,
and then you got to be
yeah.
a part of it.
Yeah.
In the vacuum left behind by Reservation Dogs, what's the best show on television?
What am I? Oddly and similarly, I think that what Mo Amer's doing is pretty great. It's
a great show.
I think that show Mo
Yeah.
is very, that guy's a deep guy, he's a sweet guy. I was just in Houston the day before yesterday, and this is a guy that, that's an honest show. And it deals with, fairly global intensity from a very sort of personal point of view, being that he's a Palestinian American. But this is a guy, like, I was in Houston, and I texted him, and I'm like, "What's up? Can you give me some food, Rex?" And without even thinking, and his wife were going out for dinner for her birthday that night. He's like, "Come over, we'll cook you some falafel and stuff." At 2 p.m, and like the hospitality of people who were brought up in strong communities and strong families, it was mind blowing. It was like really moving to me, and I went over there. It's the best falafel I ever had. It had to be, but it was pretty sweet. But I like that show. Why? What do you think?
Oh man, I don't know why you'd ask me. I'm the TV editor.
Like everyone talks about Severance, but I don't have very little
White
patience.
Lotus.
You're not like a mystery box guy, like with Severance, like the mystery box.
No, I don't know.
storytelling?
Like for me, any of that type of show, it's like it's better if it's just a movie because then I only got to wait an hour for something to come together. I don't have the patience week to week to watch an episode and go like, I still don't know what the fuck is happening.
Sharon Horgan's A Bad Sister is really great.
Ooh,
yeah, that's really
okay.
good. Yeah,
I loved Catastrophe, the other Sharon
that's
Horgan
great.
thing.
Yeah, that was a great show.
What's that?
That was with Rob Delaney.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I
UK.
heard about that.
That was a good one.
Yeah, people like that. I think I watched a couple episodes. It's hard for me to stick with things.
This is one of my go-tos, just as kind of a lazy journalist, which is always like, what are you most looking forward to people seeing from this project? But I think in this instance, given how like personal it is, what are you most anxious about people seeing in this project?
Me? Yeah. Oh, that's that old video footage. I go ahead and get into my attic and pull out all these VHS tapes of me in my 20s that I hadn't seen in decades. And, you know, there's actually a bit of me doing a joke in the competition that I came in second in 1988 that started my comedy career. And just seeing me with all that sort of empty swagger. Like, you know, I had an idea of who I was or who I wanted to be, but I was not there. And, you know, it's a little cringy for me. And then there's some footage that I took at my house. I don't even know if, like, I feels like that was, like, right out of college or something of me, like, hanging around, smoking all those cigarettes.
I think it was right after you got back from L.A.
You think?
I think that's what the date was on it. It was, like, right after.
Oh, so I was out of my mind.
Yeah. So 80s.
Yeah, so that stuff's a little rough for me. But I think people will be like, oh, look, it's cute baby Marc. But for me, I'm like, who did I think I was? I think I became finally who I am, but back then I don't know who I thought I was.
I mean, yeah, sometimes it takes a while. Yeah. I won't know who I am until I'm, you know, like 10, 15 years from now. I don't think.
It's just starting to happen for me.
Yeah. Speaking of The Pit, that's what I couldn't think of.
Oh, that's a great show. Noah
TV
Wiley.
show.
Yeah, you know what? It's like I was surprised because I interviewed Noah, and I'm like, all right, because my buddy who plays drums with me sometimes is a pediatric nurse, and he's got a bit part on that show. And he's like, you got to interview Noah. And I'm like, I never watched one episode of ER, you know. And then finally I'm like, all right, well, he's got to have a story. And then I watched like 6 episodes of The Pit, and I'm like, there is something pretty like intense about this show. Yeah. You know, like 10-episode arc over one day. It's pretty smart. And it's like, it is like an emergency room, but there's something very real about the energy. You know, the script is what it is. It's okay, but there's something about the intensity of the that kind of thing where you think about like cops and doctors. It's like it's never going to end. Yeah. Every day is going to be like that. Yeah. All you can hope for is a slow day. Yeah, I like it.
Show.
I think we like we wrote an article. I didn't write. I commissioned it. It was like The Pit is about just like our relentless reality right now. It's just relentless.
Yeah,
but it's also like totally about mortality. And the fragility of life.
Oh yeah, the pilot especially, the first.
Yeah,
one.
I mean, it's just like, because no one wants to end up in a hospital, but everyone's probably going to end up in one. And it's not great, but just the idea that on a day-to-day basis that, you know, this life and death business is like, it's just par for the course. And I don't think we really think about that because we do everything in our power not to. And I think that show really kind of puts it front and center.
Completely agree. And it's just fun to watch, which is, you know, kind
yeah,
of a rarity.
He's good.
He's really good, yeah.
Well, all right, gents.
You want to just sit and review TV shows?
Yeah.
Good.
Welcome to Alex, Steven, Marc review time. You're going to be doing a lot of interviews for this documentary if you haven't already. I don't know if we're your first or not. And a lot of
second.
Okay, excellent. A lot of uncreative interviewers, myself included, are going to be really tempted to finish interviews by asking, "Are we good?" Would you recommend not doing that? And if not, what phraseology should I replace that with?
No, we're good.
We good?
Yeah,
we're good.
All right.
We're good.
All right. Thanks for stopping by, gents.
Thank you. All right.